All right, so Justin, talk about being a hostile athlete and kind of what it's meant to you to be on that team.
It's meant a lot to me, man. When Fuad initially reached out to me, I was thrilled. The hostile products were something that I had actually already used. I was just a big fan of Fuad, what he was doing, the podcast, everything. So I had been ordering some of his supplements, and they're no bullshit supplements. They're formulated by Bodybuilder for bodybuilders, and they're real deal. I think we all know that. But more than anything, I think that Fuad has done a great job of creating a sense of community around his brand, and not just with the podcast and with his followers and everybody. We all tune in, and we're all fans. We all feel like we're a part of something bigger. But within the team, we're all a part of a big group chat, and we all bullshit almost daily within that group chat. We have he's had several meetings or team meetings where we all get on Zoom meetings and bullshit and just talk about things that are coming up. And it feels good. It feels like you're really a part of something, and you don't just have like a list of things that you're supposed to do for some man behind the curtain. I mean, it's like Fuad's involved, and we actually speak and we see him, and it's refreshing. It really is cool. And aside from that, the products are top notch, and I couldn't ask for a better company to represent. And I think initially when he reached out to me, I was thrilled because I had a few people reach out to me, wanting me to represent them, and I just didn't feel like I wanted to stand behind their products. I didn't feel comfortable promoting things that I knew I wouldn't use. I got packages in the mail. I try the product and I can't promote this, and for me, I do have other business ventures. I'm financially stable. This wasn't about money at all for me, so this was just about representing something that I felt truly, deserved to be represented. And I'm very, very grateful to be part of this.
What was it when Fuad reached out to you? What was it about you specifically, Justin, that he had interest in bringing you on the team?
I don't know. Honestly, I didn't have a large, social media following. I had just done USAs and had, a top 5 finish, which was, great, but I haven't really done anything inside of bodybuilding, so I think he just seen something in me. And again, kind of doubling back to, the confidence I have in myself, Fuad plays a role in that, and he sees things in me that, you don't always see in yourself. A lot of times you look in the mirror and you don't see what other people see, and having confidence of people who have walked the walk, who've been in this industry for a long time, and I know have the eye, that's a huge confidence booster for me, So I think he just seen something in me that he wanted to help me out and give me a shot, and I'm very grateful.
100%, man. So you've mentioned other business adventures. You said earlier that you're passionate about business. So first of all, talk about the gym. You kind of already touched on the gym, but talk about kind of the environment and the community that you guys have created there, that you want to sustain there. And then why don't you talk about some of the other
Sure.
businesses that you have? I know you have Forward, which is I think the dispensary you mentioned earlier. And what is it about business that makes that you're passionate about?
I think just within business, just like within bodybuilding, it's just progression. Being able to kind of take on these scary ventures and build something from nothing, and just kind of go all in on something with little certainty, and the thrill of going all in. You're never guaranteed anything, so when you put all your eggs in one basket and you really go in, you're rolling the dice, and it's a thrill, but more than that, I appreciate building the business model and the brand, and seeing all that come to fruition, and then at this point, I have 18, 19 employees, something like that I'm able to provide for, and then they're able to provide for their families, and they all have bills and lives that all depend on what I'm doing. And, it's a huge responsibility, but within that, it's very fulfilling, knowing that like you're able to provide opportunities for these people. And, you obviously have some people who, I mean, especially within the cannabis industry, you do have a high turnover rate, but you have some people that recognize these opportunities for what they are. And, it's fun to be able to reward those people and see people climb the ladder within your business and provide more for you as you provide more for them. And it's just a good exchange. And, I love it, man. It's a lot of fun. It's very, very fulfilling. And within the gym, that's obviously a labor of love, and I love collecting gym equipment. I'm a big fan of old school equipment, so I'm constantly cruising Craigslist or these, used fitness equipment pages on Instagram and just kind of constantly dialing in my showroom. A lot of people collect old cars and shoes and, I like to collect gym equipment, so it's allowed me the ability to invest in my business, but also, acquire things selfishly that I want, but it's within the gym business, your ROI on gym equipment that's slow going stuff. You can drop 20 grand on equipment and not see any of that money back for, ages, or if ever, so just being able to do that for yourself is huge. But like, you get a new piece of equipment and then you see the members gravitate towards it. I'll grab my wife, like, look, they fucking love that chest press, and you see people using it, and it's fun and it's exciting, but over time, as you bring people into your gym, they see that passion. The members see that you're constantly bringing in new things. You're constantly updating the environment. You're constantly, trying to evolve. And, that's the thrill, is just, I just don't like being stagnant, and I couldn't imagine a world where I'm just punching in, droning out a 9 to 5, forgetting about everything for the weekend, and then just, going back to that grind. I just personally need for myself a little more than that. And business has definitely allowed that for me to, just the thrill and the fulfillment of it all. I really appreciate it.
So talk about Forward, and how did you get into the cannabis industry? Why did you get into it? And how have you kind of gone about creating that business blueprint and growing the business?
Well, I think my brother and I, we first, the housing crash of '08, we were painting homes at that time, and things got really hard. We were, like I said, we're in construction, and people just quit getting their houses painted. People quit building homes. The phone quit ringing, and during that next few years, it was tough. I mean, we were cutting firewood in the hills. It's snowing out, and we're splitting a cord of wood all day just to go make $200. And me and my dad would split $100 each, for a 10-hour day on the mountain, splitting firewood. I mean, it was tough, and I had a few friends that I seen that were growing and that were doing this. It's pretty popular in my area here in Southern Oregon. We're kind of it's kind of the Oregon Humboldt, really is. There's that small region within Southern Oregon to Northern California where we're one of the only areas in not just the country but the world that you can produce on this scale. So I seen people taking that opportunity and doing it, and I convinced my parents, or my brother rather convinced my parents, like, hey, we're going to grow weed in the backyard. And it was a huge flop. We got, seed starts from a buddy and, clones from a guy, and we put them in small pots, and then it rained all that winter and everything molded and it went to shit and we made no money. Well, then we tried again and we, failed again, and next thing you know, you just learn and you evolve, and with every failure comes a lesson. You always learn more than you lose, so I really owe it to my parents, them allowing us to just fill their backyard with pot plants and, not make any money. And, eventually we made a little bit of money and we were able to lease a piece of property, and we made some more money there. And then, were able to eventually, over the span of about 8 years, we were able to buy our own property. And by that time it was, that was medical marijuana at that time. So the weed we had, we were selling into medical dispensaries. And so that was kind of our hustle. We're driving and, selling 1 pound at a time to these medical dispensaries, and, going in and getting turned down by everybody. And, it's just like, can be pretty deflating at times. But we seen that business model. We're going in and having these meetings with these guys, and they're sitting in their back room, and they've got, pounds everywhere, and they're looking at our stuff and they go, yeah, whatever, come back later. And you're going, oh, these fuckers, but you seen what they're doing. I was like, I want to do that. And eventually, my brother and I, like I said, we were able to, I curated enough success where we were able to acquire a lease and acquire one of the first legal cannabis dispensaries in our town. There's only, I think there's 4 total in our town, and that's it. That's all we're allowed to have at this point, because we're all kind of narrowed down into these small 21 and up areas. But that in itself was, it was difficult. We went all in. We hemorrhaged everything we had into this thing. The day we opened our dispensary, I borrowed $200 from my wife, who's my girlfriend at the time. We had actually just started dating, and I borrowed $200 to put cash in the tills, so I'd have money when people came in to buy product, because I spent all the money on product. I'd been paying wages, I'd paid my lease up, and I had we were just broke. At that time, I actually had given the title to my truck to the landlord because I couldn't pay the full lease. I said, here's the title to my truck, I'm good for it, let us do this thing. And I spent every bit of money on payroll and product, and we opened those doors, and I was running on borrowed money, and luckily it worked out. But that's what it takes. It really takes, going all in, knowing, like, I didn't have money for rent that month. I mean, I didn't know how I was going to pay the rent, for the roof over my head, but you have to have faith in these visions, and you got to be willing to make those risks. And luckily it all paid off. Here we are 4 years later after that, and business is booming. It's doing really well.
So you've got Duo Gym, you've got Forward. Are there any other business ventures that you are involved with, or not, Justin? Is it just those 2?
No, right now it's just my like I said, Forward Cannabis, my dispensary, and then I have my farm, Forward Horticulture, and those are vertically integrated companies. So I'm able to sell my own product within my own store, and then I have my gym. So that's it for now. And then really my biggest pursuit right now is just the business of bodybuilding. I'm career motivated with this. This isn't anything I'm taking lightly. I want to approach this just like I approached all my other businesses, and I'm all in.
So let's talk about that, because we mentioned that about Jay Cutler, and I personally, as somebody from the outside looking into NPC bodybuilding, IFBB bodybuilding, I personally feel, I own my own gym, I'm in real estate. I also have that entrepreneurial spirit within me, and kind of that creation within me.
Awesome.
And I really see that is a huge area that there needs to be more education on and I'm talking about bodybuilding and business, right? We have the Jay Cutlers, we have, Fuad, and some of these people that have turned bodybuilding business, and even outside of bodybuilding, there's that business in terms of Jay Cutler. But how can bodybuilders turn their bodybuilding, their competing, their own physiques into a business? Like, what are some of your focuses personally, and what is some advice that you can give some of the listeners, Justin?
Well, obviously I'm learning as I go. I'm not there yet. I mean, I at this point, I'm just trying to be consistent, putting out content that provides value. Like I said, with training videos, I try to make sure that when someone clicks on my page, clicks on a post, they have something that brings some value, you know, and I think I've done a good job of doing that. And it's kind of reflected in the engagement that I've got, and you know, some of the some of the communications I've had within my following is I am providing value. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just providing value to the people that follow you. And, you know, there organically, you're going to grow, you know, and you create opportunities for yourself, just decency. You know, I think that I don't think Fuad would have reached out to me if he would have went to my page and not seen in my comment section that I was cordial and polite and responsive to these people. You know, I don't ever get in altercations with people. There's negativity, I ignore it or just remove it from my page, you know, and those are the type of things that you need to pay attention to, because these are the things that sponsors are going to pay attention to. They don't want you, you know, starting shit in your comment section, and that reflects poorly on the company, you know. So I think, you know, being good, honest, and you know, providing value for those who follow you, I mean, that's the biggest start right there. And then from there, you just, I mean, it's bodybuilding, you know, so do everything you can in the world of bodybuilding, push progression, and hone in your craft. And I think with those things in place organically, you know, it will happen.
Very good. So you haven't been in bodybuilding for that long. What's something that maybe you've changed your mind on about bodybuilding over the last several years, or what's something that you've learned in the last several years that you didn't know when you kind of started this bodybuilding experience?
That's a tough question. You know, I know I've talked a lot about the training aspect of things. That's something I didn't really understand going into bodybuilding. You know, when in 2019, when I first started um, bodybuilding, I wasn't immersed in the world of bodybuilding. You know, I wasn't necessarily following bodybuilders. You know, I mean, there were guys like, I got to give it to like guys like Rich Piana, you know, and guys like you know, even like Cali Muscle, guys like that were just polarizing figures within this space. You know, I think I was able to, coming up, I was able to connect with those guys because you learned more about them and the person. You know, CT Fletcher, you know, you got to understand who they were, you know, and I think they do a better job, or did rather, of putting who they were out there, you know. So I was able to kind of gravitate to those type of characters where I wasn't necessarily connected with like the top five of the Olympia, because, you know, let's be honest, Jake, you know, with Phil Heath, that you don't really know who that guy is. You know, you don't get a good beat on what his day to day is, who he is, you know, and that's no fault of his own. You're talking about a 7-time Mr. Olympia. He's got maybe more important stuff to do than vlogging on YouTube. But I would say as I kind of pivoted into that space, I started seeing more of what real bodybuilding was. I was, you know, obviously aware of who these guys were, but I wasn't, you know, immersed in their principles. I wasn't immersed in true bodybuilding, you know. So I think, you know, my training principles changed drastically when I started entering that space. And I started following more of what Dorian Yates did. You know, that blood and guts video is something that plays almost daily at my gym. You know, I have a big flat screen up front that I make sure to put that thing on when I get in there. Just, you know, put that out there, let people see that stuff. It's important stuff. So I think that's a big thing that changed for me. And you know, I wasn't a guy that was eating. You know, I was eating 4 times a day. I didn't understand that you had to eat 6 times a day and force feed, and you know, these were all new principles to me. And you know, these are the things that as I'm trying to help people coming up, communicating with me on social media, you know, you see that that's where the biggest drop off is for a lot of these younger guys coming up, or just newer guys. They just don't understand how paramount like eating and training is. These two aspects are, it's everything, you know. And I think um, one thing that I started to do is prioritize rest, which is again something that Dorian Yates preached. You know, that guy trained for, you know, 4 days a week out of, you know, the majority of his career, you know. So I would say, I think I kind of forgot your question. I'm just rambling here, but I think that's, you know, those things are what I definitely changed about my own approach as I entered this space and actually started to bodybuild. And because before that, being an average gym goer is just two different things. I was a guy that had, I had big arms and, decent sized legs and, whatever, but I wasn't a bodybuilder. I wasn't in the mirror looking at my lats thinking I need to bring these things up because I'm going to look like a fool on stage. So, those things just don't matter to you when, you're not taking off your shirt and getting in your posing trunks in front of, a big group of people, so that's just two different worlds.
Perfect. Now, we're going to kind of start wrapping things up here. I want to ask you though,
Sure.
just on the day to day, like right now in prep, what is your mindset? Do you have a word? Do you have a quote? Do you have a mantra? Is there anything that you really focus on within your mind every single day in prep leading up to nationals?
Yeah, I'd say so. I like to say in the gym, these are the reps that the other guys aren't doing. When you're digging in for those last few reps on the hack squat, like, don't forget the other guys, aren't doing these reps. And it's important to focus on doing everything you can, and I think it's just making sure you're doing everything you can, I talk about this often. Here I am, I'm in my room doing cardio, and nobody knows if I crawl off that thing 10 minutes early, but I know, I'll know on that day when I'm standing in front of everybody that I didn't do everything I could have coming up to that point. And that you don't want to be there, man. You don't want to live in that space. You want to know that you did absolutely everything, so when you're, running short on time or just burn out and you don't feel like doing that last session, you get home late from a movie or whatever, and you're like, fuck, I don't want to do this last session. It's really easy because no one's going to know if you don't do it, but I'll know, so that's the shit excuse my language, sorry. That's the stuff that I focus on, and I just want to know that on that day, I can look back and know that I did absolutely everything in my power to make this happen. So that's really all I'm focusing on at this point. I've got a plan, and it's just robot mode, man. I just execute and do it, take it day by day.
Are there any current IFBB pros on the circuit, Justin, that you really look up to, you really admire their physiques? Maybe you've had some conversations with them through social media or what have you that you just kind of want to put out there, that you admire them, you look up to them, you respect their physiques?
Sure. Obviously it's like the current crop of guys that are coming up right now. I'm a huge fan, the guys like Hunter Labrada, obviously Nick Walker, he's somebody that I chat with from time to time, and he's also coached by Matt. But I hugely respect, the trajectory that he's been able to have in his bodybuilding career, and I look at a guy like Brett Wilkin, who has made tremendous strides in his physique. Also he's part of Hostile and coached by Matt as well. But those three guys are guys I look at and I admire greatly, and especially all of them work their ass off in the gym and train very hard, and I do notice that, I watch a guy like Hunter or Brett or Nick training, and you're like, those guys are giving everything they've got to this craft, and then there's obviously guys like, I'm a huge fan of Hadi. I love Hadi Chupin. I'm a big fan of Hadi. That's, you don't have the same connection with a guy like that. It's a bit more elusive. Like I feel a little more connected to, guys like Brett or Nick or Hunter, because they're, coming up in the same time frame that I am, and that maybe they're a little more available. But yeah, I think those three guys are currently the guys that I see that I look at and I want to emulate their path and emulate what they're doing.
Is there a current IFBB pro who has a physique that you feel like yours kind of molds after, or you feel like your guys' physiques are similar? Obviously, you've got a lot more time to grow and all that. I understand that, but is there one physique that you're like, hey, I think I kind of compare to that physique in the IFBB pro?
Man, that's a tough question. You see a lot of guys with good shape. And I think, I think that's a good strong point of mine is I think I have good shape, and I think that shape can carry me a long ways as long as, I come in condition and I, bring the level of musculature that I need. But sure, I mean, I look at a guy like Hunter Labrada, nice small waist, his front doubles, beautiful, sweeping quad like that. I look at that and I think I could potentially do that, and obviously I'm a ways off. I'm not saying that that's, where, I can do what he's doing, but, yeah, I would say that, I could see some similarities in that physique. Obviously, what the one I get a lot is Dennis Wolf. People say that I look like Dennis Wolf, So, and I think that's the high lat insertions, and that's a huge compliment for me. But yeah, I'd say that's the one I get the most, and then yeah, I think it's really tough to look at people's physiques and try to compare yourself. I try not to do that because I just want to stay in my own lane and not get stuck on trying to emulate anybody else. Just do what I got to do. But yeah, the Dennis Wolf thing is one I get a lot.
That's a pretty cool physique.
That's high praise. That's high praise.
Yeah. That he was man, back in the early to mid 2000s. He was a freak of freaks, that's for sure. The big bad wolf.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's hard for me to see it when people say that. I almost just scoff and like, you have no idea what you're talking about or looking at, but
So I want to wrap it up with this. Outside of bodybuilding, outside of business, you've mentioned your wife a few times in our conversation. What's your wife's first name, Justin?
Jasmine.
So what do you and Jasmine like to do for fun? What do you like to do outside of business and bodybuilding when you do have a few minutes together and a few minutes to think about other things than those two things?
We obviously we both love food, so going out to dinner and getting a nice glass of wine and a good steak somewhere, that's obviously a go-to. We both love going to the movies and watching good films. She's a competitive CrossFit athlete, so she's pretty honed in on her path as well, so there's kind of a unique level of compatibility there. We both spend all day in the gym, and it's kind of, it is a lifestyle that, you have to commit. She's someone that has a strict meal plan and strict training times and totally understands exactly what I'm doing. And she's also prepped for competitions, and she understands the level of focus that goes into those things, so we really mesh very well in that respect. But, when we shut it all off, just kicking back and watching some TV or going to the movies or going to dinner or just traveling, we love to, travel and go see beautiful stuff. Summertime, go float the river and go on hikes. That's something we do quite a bit, is hiking around here in Southern Oregon. We got a lot of cool hikes, so taking off and going on a hike on a nice Sunday. Yeah, we're just kicking back and watching TV.
Favorite movie of all time?
Oh God, I don't know. I hear these questions asked all the time, and it's just that's such a tough question. I don't even think I could give you an answer. Like there's favorite, maybe favorite movies for particular genres. Oh man, I don't know. I truly don't even have an answer.
What's
I hate to let you down.
What's the last movie that you watched?
We watched Eternals last night in theaters. The new Marvel movie. It was good. Yeah, I don't think it was. It wasn't as good as, say, like the maybe Iron Man movies or something like that. Not as quite as polarizing. Didn't quite bring me in with the character development as much. But it was something that I enjoyed.
Cool, man. All right, Justin, we're gonna finish it up there. If you have any final thoughts or any final words that you have for the listeners and myself, would love to kind of hear anything you got for us in closing. And then where can people find you and where can people connect with you?
You can find me on my Instagram, just Justin_Shier, SHIER. And I think just in wrapping things up, like we discussed, just being genuine and transparent about your about your journey, the ups and downs, you know, and just being decent, you know, those type of things take you a long way. And you know, try to give to those who are coming up and ask the questions and are, you know, in a place that we all have been. You know, try to give back to those guys, because, you know, we've all been there where we want to know what split someone's doing, you know, because you just want the answers, you know. So I try to you know, empathize with their situation, even though, you know, it's kind of a funny thing, everyone asking you what your split is. I still answer every time, just because, you know, I know it's important to these guys, you know. So I try to give back as much as I can, and just, you know, be a good person, and do the hard work, do the hard stuff. I think that's really about it.
Excellent, man. Justin, thank you so much for taking some time to share your story and
Thank you.
chop it up with me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. This is fun. I really appreciate it.
Cool. Well, Behind the Muscle podcast listeners, those of you tuning in through YouTube, once again, thank you so very much for just joining us on another episode. If it wasn't for you guys, the podcast wouldn't exist. The podcast on YouTube is growing. The Instagram is growing, and it's not because of me. It's because of you guys. You guys are supporting. You guys are subscribing. You guys are following, liking, commenting. So thank you very much. If you haven't done so already, make sure you go to YouTube, or if you're on YouTube right now, tuning in, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Why is that important? Because I release all of these episodes first on YouTube, and then I shoot them out to all the other podcast platforms. The second thing I would ask of all of you, take Justin's episode, share it on all of your social media platforms. Make sure you tag Justin, tag Behind the Muscle. That way we know people listened. People had found great value in what Justin shared today, his story, his insights. And that's just a great way for more people to find the podcast. More people will listen, and more people will be positively impacted. And finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.